I mean, I think up to that point in my career, my best month ever had been about 290,000 or so. And then, I had the one loss on Lake that was like the single loss was pretty much equal to my best month ever. And my typical month back then even was probably like 150 to 200. Like I was pretty consistent, like hitting those numbers. So the first month I sized down, I remember it was a $20,000 month overall. And that was with like one like really crazy outlier short win. I think it was KBIO.
Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Trader. Today, I have a return guest. He's been on the show a few times, and I'm so thankful for that. He's a badass trader, a great person, and someone that I look up to, and I'm happy to bring back on the show. Hopefully, I can bring back every freaking day. No, I'm just kidding. But it's awesome having back Tim Grittani. Tim Grittani, welcome back, my man.
Hey, thanks, Alex. I'm really happy to be back.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure to have you here. I want to bring you back because a couple of reasons. Number one, the main reason is you just announced, today is January 28th, but I believe you announced it yesterday, January 27th, 2021, your new course or DVD, whatever you want to call it, Trading Tickers 2. It's finally coming out, right?
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah.
It's wild, man. I know so many people have asked me questions about the first, like when I watched it and reviewed the first one, they're like, is this course still worth it? And I'm always like, yeah, it's a great like DVD where you can learn a lot of good fundamentals, like fundamentals in terms of like how to dribble, you know what I'm saying? Like how to actually trade. And dude, you're the first one who made a course that really made me like, holy crap. Like this is how someone trades. Like you could see it. So what made you want to do the part two? Is it just people just bugging you or what was it?
It wasn't so much that. I mean, people have been asking for a second one for years. Like it's been like one of my most frequently asked questions. And for a long time, my answer just was like, I don't have enough new stuff to talk about. And I don't want to just like put out random crap. So it was really just a matter of like, wait till I had enough to talk about. And then also just like with the passage of time, the first one did start to get a little bit more dated and a little bit more dated to the point where it was like, okay, like now not only do I have a few new strategies that I'm doing in the 5 years since, but I also have like all these new things I can talk about, or, I have things I can expand on from the first one that maybe I didn't explain clearly enough. So it was just, I kind of just hit that point where it was like, hey, I've got enough new content now. Let's get it done.
And so, what I can say is that new course, it was, what do you want to call it? Course, DVD?
I think we're going with course now. I think okay. Cause I mean, even the first one confused everyone because I never even made like a physical disc of it. So it was never really even a DVD. It was like a streaming thing only. And some people got upset with me about that.
Oh, really? Okay. So of course, what's interesting is you said you didn't want to really make it right away because you just don't want to like regurgitate the same thing because nothing was really changing at first. Over time, things changed and things started piling up. And over all those years, you were like, okay, now it's time because I have enough new stuff to share. But what I love about when you said that is it's like you still kind of trade the same, right? At the end of the day, like you trade the same, but yet things have changed. Like some little things have changed here and there. Like you have a new golden rule, which is in the course, and you have some other things like new setups, but you also have your main core, like your main course.
Oh yeah. A lot of the main core is the same. Yeah.
Or course, sorry.
Well, a lot of the core setups from the first course, I guess, are the same. Like, I'm still trading the shortened resistance, overextended gap down, stuff like that. But, like you saw in it, like there's differences, like, like the way I approach my entries is way different. The way I approach my risk is way different. So like, it was even like like I really need to talk about how I approach these smarter now. Like it's the same setups, but like I'm putting myself in a much better position to potentially succeed rather than, potentially have huge headaches. Like what was the ticker in the first one? The 50K loss. I can't believe I'm blanking on this now.
No, you're fine. I don't remember the ticker, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but still, like point being like, okay, how am I avoiding situations like that now? So I mean, in addition to the new stuff, it was really important to sort of show the small changes to the old.
Yeah, no, but what I really love about how you still have your core is that yes, you've made some changes. For sure, you made some changes on your core in terms of, I think it just really shows that you've grown as a trader and grown as like you handle risk a lot better, really, at the end of the
Mhm.
day,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
which is really what you were talking about for the whole, the different changes and what you change, quote unquote, change from the last course. And it really was eye opening. Like, wow, it's like, although you've changed some things, at the end of the day, the meat is still there from the first course, right? And that was
Mhm.
interesting because it was inspiring for me as a trader to be like, yo, like once you kind of get what's working for you, it kind of can continue to work for you and you just get better and better and better and make little changes and little adjustments, and which is really what you showed me. And of course, you do have the additional setups that you show that you've now tracked. And now you've added, since you've had your core, you started adding new tools to your belt, which is awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean that's always been a goal of mine through my career, really, and I'm glad that like that's the mindset I took because if I hadn't always been like, oh, let's look for the next thing, then when OTCs died out for the few years there, that would have been like the end of my career. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like some deep insecurity or something, but it's always like, okay, what's next? What can I work on next? Like, let's find a new setup. And, it does kind of lead to times where maybe I'm trading an old setup less because now I'm focused on something new that I think might be more profitable. So just, the focus shifts a little bit, but the entire playbook is still there. And that is nice. Like when the market slows down or something like that, because then I can say, okay, well now, instead of worrying about buying all these breakouts and stuff like that, like I can really focus more on the short side of things and be more aggressive on my shorts into resistance or whatever.
And talking about the breakouts, like you shared quite a few more long strategies now in this one, which is very interesting. I was like, Tim Grittani longing more? Like, what's going on here, man?
Well, it was the weakest part of my trading. That was part of the reason why it was like I need to like that was just the natural next area to try to focus in on. And I was trying to think of like different spots in the overall stock patterns where it's like, okay, where is there volatility that I might not be taking advantage of it? And yeah, that's kind of just where I focused in and got to work.
Without giving the whole thing away, I do want to talk about one topic that you talked about.
Go for it.
And I thought it was so interesting to me. And that was the topic of how you downsized. And I
Oh,
think I love that you said that in the course because I downsized to try something new. I think we talked about that offline a long time ago. And I like downsized dramatically where it just was dumb, And so like, but when you explain how you downsize, and in all intents and purposes, it was like the same. It was like downsizing 10 times less size
yeah.
to try something new. Can you explain that thought process and explain to everyone without me telling it? You go ahead and share what I mean by
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I mean, it was kind of like my rock bottom moment of trading,
Yeah.
which is funny because like I didn't blow up an account or anything like that, but I just felt a complete lack of control. And it just kind of wore on me over time where it was like, how do I keep getting in these situations where my losses are ballooning and going way beyond what they should? So like, I knew that wasn't sustainable. I knew that I would not last as a trader if that kept going on. So I had to address it. And I just figured first step of that was just take a huge step back, make it not at all about the money, make it about redeveloping good habits. So it was definitely hard at first though, because just mentally to go from trading the kind of size I was to like, oh, now my max loss is $1,000 and most of my wins are right around $1,000 or $2,000. It was like the money felt insignificant compared to before.
Give them
But
perspective for people who don't know, like, because that's really important. I don't like talking about money, but it's really important to understand what that means to you in terms of going from X to going from Y.
yeah, I mean, I think up to that point in my career, my best month ever had been about 290,000 or so. And then, I had the one loss on Lake that was like the single loss was pretty much equal to my best month ever. And my typical month back then even was probably like 150 to 200. Like I was pretty consistent, like hitting those numbers. So the first month I sized down, I remember it was a $20,000 month overall. And that was with like one like really crazy outlier short win. I think it was KBIO. So it was like, okay, so I just made 20K and I was riding most of my month on this one crazy, like it was like a 10K win on this outlier ridiculous short. And it was like, okay, well, it's not about this month. Like, it's not about the money this month. It's about, my whole career going forward. Like, I need to, like, I'll just suck it up right now. I'll deal with the smaller size. It's not about that, because once I get my habits fixed, like, that's going to lift the ceiling of what's possible for me.
And the habit, it was what you were talking about earlier, is you were just taking bigger losses than you needed by holding against your risk per se, right?
Yeah, well, it was that whole concept of like, I still remember it. Like, I like right around the time all my problems started. Well, I guess they started before this, but when I started to get burned by my problems, I had just given one of my speeches in Vegas for one of the conferences, and like a big focus of my speech was like, instead of cut losses quickly, cut losses intelligently. And I thought it was like the most profound thing ever. So
I remember that.
yeah. And a lot of the time it was like, for me, intelligent, it was like, oh, it spiked through. Like, let's give it a little wiggle room. Let's see what it does. Like maybe it's just going to stuff and come back down. And that was not intelligent, because, yeah, maybe 4 out of 5 stuff and I feel okay about it. But then one just rockets right through the risk level. And then the decision all of a sudden is, do I take the double loss right here? Or do I, hold and hope that there's a pullback that I can cover into? But if there isn't, then I'm taking a 4 or 5, 6 times loss. So, I mean, yeah, I had all those big losses, the 3 or 4 6-figure losses that I talk about all the time. But in addition to that, there were 30K losses and 40K losses left and right. Like, the ones where it wasn't necessarily like, oh, this is like some huge 6-figure loss for me, but it was like, it still made an impact. Like, it was like, I'm supposed to lose 5 or 10K on a play and I'm losing 30 or 40. Like, and it's happening consistently.
Yeah, and I know you talked about this a long time ago. I think you said this either in a YouTube video or in the course, the last one. I can't remember when. I think it was a YouTube video, or you said it that you blocked off a whole month. I mean, a whole year. And you tracked, you just blocked, I don't know what dates you picked, but you blocked
it was like May to May.
Yeah. And you made nothing that year. And that was really, and I'm focusing on like what you went through, and hopefully, like, I have so much respect for you, brother. And I'm just focusing on that because it's inspiring to me, to a lot of people, that we all go through things. And I love that you were so open about like sharing that. And then that you shared like, hey man, like, even though I was killing it, there was a time period where even in between there that I just wasn't doing too hot. And then you made this adjustment and then shared that adjustment. Help me understand how hard, really, like, what were you dealing with in your head when you made that adjustment to downsize? Like, you were saying it's not about the money, but like, was it really that easy? Like, it's not about the money. Like, what was going through your head for that first month? Did you do it for 2 months, 3 months? Like, how long did you do it for?
Yeah, so I started in November of, that would have been 2015. And I think I went till about July or August of 2016 before I was like, okay, I got this now. And it was just a slow sizing up process. That was really the goal from the start was,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for cutting you off. I meant I meant it confused you. I meant like when you size back down in this new course, when you size back down, how long did you size back down for? And like, how did you gradually go back? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. And that's kind of what I'm saying.
Oh, was it 2015?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
it was.
Sorry.
Yeah. So that's like when all this went down was,
gotcha. I'm thinking now because the DVD's coming out now. So,
yeah. No, I've been sized up for a while now. But,
okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. But yeah, so it was like that first November was like the $1,000 risk. Like, I need to cut there. I need to stick to my rules. And I've got a series of YouTube videos where I kind of did like a month by month journal of this process, where I would like have a mistakes journal, where if I felt like I broke a rule, I would hold myself accountable, and I'd put it like a little tally in my sheet and all these notes surrounding it. Like, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? How do I fix this? And at the end of the month, I would just look at my tallies. And if I thought I did a good job that month, I would take a step up in size the next month. So I'd go from $1,000 risk to 1,500, and then 1,500 to 2,000. And this was like, just a month by month assessment. And there were a couple of months in there where I would take that step up, and then I'd start to slip back into old habits. And so I'd get to the end of the month and I'd say, wow, you know what? Like I made more mistakes this month than I should have. And so my size would stay right where it was. Like that was kind of my punishment. It was like, okay, I can't take that next step up because I didn't earn it. So it was going to take as long as it was going to take. But like it all came from a place of like really deep fear that like I was going to be one of those stories of someone who, you know, made it big in the stock market and then gave it all back. And that's the route things were going if I hadn't taken these steps, I think.
You know, it's interesting that every month you evaluate, like, it wasn't like, oh, this week I did good, let me increase. You know, every month you would tally your mistakes. And then if you had less mistakes from the previous month, you would move up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was months where you didn't move at all, which is, you know, I'm sure you get this question all the time, or you hear people trying to size up so quickly. And it's like you were already big size and you sized all the way down and then took your time to come back. It's like you reprove to yourself that you can do this and you can come back stronger. Because how's things now that you took that step in that process? How are you now? Do you feel like things are better? Do you feel much better? What is the insight you gathered after going through all of that experience?
Oh yeah. After going through it all, like I think it was one of the key things that enabled me to kind of take it to the next level. Like, I mean, back when I did all this, I was probably at about 2.5 or 3 million in overall profits. And then what would it have been? Like, I don't know. I mean, in 2 or 3 years, I went from 3 million to over 10. So it was like just kind of partially that now I'm not taking these huge losses anymore. So I'm not, you know, just giving myself these gashes in my months that bring me right back down. But also it was like, you just trade with so much more confidence when you trust yourself to stick to a plan. Like as I've kind of been realizing lately, trading is like so much about confidence and just believing in yourself and that you're going to follow your plans and do what you're supposed to do when you're going to do. You'll react quickly in specific situations. And so going through those months of small size, and yeah, maybe those months my profits were smaller than they would have otherwise been, but it completely reestablished my confidence. I completely lost the fear of, oh, I'm going to be a stubborn idiot and blow up on one of these black swan squeezes. And, you know, I kind of proved to myself, okay, I can follow the rules and my setups, they work. And so I think when I ended in July of 2016 through this whole process, I was at 5K risk. And I mean, I got back to 10K risk not too long after. And that's kind of where I've hovered since then. I haven't pushed size too much beyond that, except for the situations where I really feel like, okay, this is a super special opportunity. But yeah, like I just don't think a lot of the success since then would have been possible without going through this long grind.
That's awesome, man. And it's just insightful because there's a lot of people listening to you right now and they're trying to rush it. And they're trying to like, man, you know, I should have big size because could have made so much more money if I would have had full size in that position. Instead, they should be taking their time, just, you know, making that $50, making that $100, making that $1,000, just slowly grind up. Because when you do have that confidence, like you've proven, you went from 2-3 million to quickly to 10 million in a lot faster time frame than if you would have just kept hitting your head against. If you never would have took that step back, you probably wouldn't have been there. You know, you probably wouldn't have been at that 10 million.
It was really good timing for that step back too, because not too long after was the stuff like Dries. Or like, I mean, I've seen some squeezes in this past year where it's like, wow, old me would have been like $1 million loss probably.
And you know, speaking of that now, how are things like? How have you been trading lately? Like, where have things been at in the trades this year or near the end of last year? Because it's been wild, man. It's been bizarre.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm trying to decide how much I want to go into this. So I've been doing a couple things. First of all, I think last time I was on with you, I was kind of talking about how I'm like kind of shifting more into dad mode and I haven't really been trading as much and spending a lot more time with the family. And around November, when all the EVs started to heat up, that kind of started to get a little harder for me, where I was like, oh man, I'm missing out on the crazy market. So I started kind of dipping my toe back in the water and getting back into things. Had a couple pretty nice big days between EVs and then buying some of the crypto stuff, like when crypto or when Bitcoin broke 20K. But like really I'm trying, even though things are so hot, like it sounds crazy. Like I feel bad saying it, but I'm trying not to trade. Like I'm trying to just kind of like sit on my hands and chill. And especially this month now, like where things have just been so wild and so nuts, like I'm definitely keeping up with like scans and seeing what's moving. And like the whole GameStop story is absolutely insane. But this month, this is like the first month now where I mentioned earlier, confidence is so big in trading. I'm starting to feel rusty. Like I'm starting to like have a little bit of like a lack of confidence in like my reads are still pretty good, I feel like, but I'm not pulling the trigger. And it's frustrating. It's definitely frustrating to like feel like I'm in that position where like GameStop today, I had a 5K buy order ready to go at 120 before the bounce to 300 and whatever it went to. And I probably didn't pull the trigger there because I was just stupid sized, like for me to be like, oh, I'll dip my toe back in the water with, a 500K position. But like, it was a good read. Hey, whatever. Like, but part of it too, like I said, like, I'm still kind of like market addict, like don't want to be completely away from it. And I think I mentioned this to you and I was like debating, do I want to talk about this? Cause I really don't want to answer a ton of questions about it from people. But I'm trying to automate stuff. Like I went through Matty Owen's course, he's got some great, spreadsheet tips and stuff like that I was able to take some ideas from. But I've been working with a programmer friend who he's got me going on a few different fully automated strategies right now, going off of tick data. And it's been like January has been good for it. It's up about 500K this month, but I don't know if that's because I think that's more due to the market than due to my strategies. And this has been like a 2-year project. Like I've been working on this for a long time and only recently like has it started to come together. So the goal I think is to get semi to fully automated and really cut back on the trading just because I think there's, I really question sometimes, like, are there other things I want to be doing, away from the screen more during the day?
Interesting.
I'm kind of having a little, career crisis, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where things go.
That's so interesting, man, because you're a dad, right? And it's what's important is changing. I think your time is changing. Like what's important to you is your time, and you're on your screens. And I think you want to spend more time with your family, and you're automating things. What's very interesting is, I think a lot of traders, I'm sure you know this too, that over time they start to. I'm surprised you're not swing trading. Like they start to dabble into swing trading. Then maybe they always have like some maybe like a business or an investment somewhere, and because at the end of the day, like. Yeah, maybe it'd be much nicer if you just had like a couple positions that you just, made money on through the whole year and you're good to go. You have to be on your screens all day. So that's cool, man. Have you tried to dabble into swing trading or maybe
not too much? No. It's, it's another idea though, for sure. Like it's, I've been putting so much time into the algo stuff and trying to track and develop, strategies that can just go automated that, that's just been the complete focus. But I think swing trading would be the next idea, just like something that's a lot more hands off.
Yeah. And the automation, we won't dive too deep into that. I just was curious, are you hoping to be automated where it's like a monthly check-in or a weekly check-in or is it still going to be a daily for you?
Probably daily, just to make sure that like nothing breaks and, it's not holding a bunch of positions that should have sold off or something like that. But that really would be more of like a quick check-in kind of thing. Like so far this month, I've been doing way too much of like, oh, what's it doing? Let's look. And it's kind of defeating the purpose a little bit. So I need to learn to detach a little bit in that sense. But yeah, I'd like the end goal would be like something I can just be like way more hands off of and just kind of trust it to do its thing. And, just check in every now and then and maybe reassess some of the strategies and be like, okay, like, are these performing well? Do I need to make any tweaks? Stuff like that.
What else are you might be interested in, man? You said in crisis, like maybe you might be interested.
Oh, no. Like I mean, I have no idea, honestly.
Oh, okay. Are you just
like really like full focus would just be, I think, family for a long time. And like, that's, I think a lot of people would love to have that opportunity. So it's something that I think I want to take advantage of for sure.
Absolutely, man. And you know, Triforce trader Matteo, he mentioned what like I guess the biggest challenge, and I could be butchering this. So Matt, he'll call me out. He'll call me out. He loves to call me out. So
I
so
bet.
he'll tell me. But so if you're listening, Matt, just let me know. But I think he was saying like the problem with that, one of the problems traders can have is what you said, like they want to dabble with it instead of just letting it do its thing. So it's just interesting to hear you say that. But I'm curious. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, and I already have had some experiences with that where I will. So, like, I'll get a little bit into one of them. I was trying to automate a multi-day breakout strategy, and I was, I really started collecting data on it like from April of last year. And so April to July or August or so, I gather all this data. I, do some optimizing. I feel like I'm in a really good place. And so I go ahead and I go live with it and I start putting money on the line. And then the market just goes cold, like August, September, and some of October. Like all of a sudden, like all the gap ups that were there are not gapping up anymore. And so, the account starts to like kind of slowly bleed. And so I start to like, and there were like a few more full-size losers than I was expecting to. So I make a tweak to how I'm handling my stops. And next thing I know, it has like my new rule stops me out of like a would-be 300% winner. And I was just like, that would have made up for all the losses and then some. Like,
Oh.
because I made this stupid little panic move, like from a month of data. Like it's really crazy. Like you got to take such like a wider time frame. Like it's one of those things, like if I'm going to make an adjustment, like I can't do it after like one day where I'm like, oh, I missed a runner. Like it's got to be after like weeks or months. And like I'm looking at like a huge set of data, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's a couple of things that before we start to wrap this up, there's a couple of things that you've shared today that I think people need to rewind and re-listen. And that is just the idea of confidence, the idea that you need to take a step back if you feel rusty, if you feel like things are not feeling well. If the data is showing you that, hey, things are not going too hot, don't be afraid to take a step back. Don't let your ego take over, because then you can lose it all. Because if you weren't so humble and you didn't let your ego, you didn't like put your ego in check, then you might have been short something like GME and lost everything. You know what I'm saying? And
Oh, yeah.
that can easily happen to anybody. So I appreciate you sharing that lesson. I appreciate you sharing the idea of, I know we didn't dive into it, but the whole idea of if you do have a system, the whole goal of if you have a system, regardless if it's an algo or if it's your own trading system and you're trading something and you're trying to tweak it just because you had one bad trade or one bad little mistake or something didn't work too well, you could really mess up your system and not give it time to work. So I love that you said that as well. But Grittani, I'd love for you to give real quick, if you can, if there's one thing that you can tell, because you've been trading for a long time now, and you've had a lot of success and you've gone through some little downhills, but overall, just a great career. And I love that you shared everything. So now that we know what you've been going through and why you've been MIA and being a dad and trying to go through this whole experience, what can you go, if you could go back now, back to yourself when you first went and you first hit your first million, if you can go back and sit in front of your own self and say, Grittani, you need to do this, what would you tell yourself now?
I think biggest thing would be, I tell myself, like, don't get cocky and overconfident. Cause I think that did happen to a degree. And I think it might happen to a lot of people, like where you kind of maybe it's just like, the $1 million number is like this big milestone or something, but like, I feel like the second you feel like you've made it and you're like, oh, well, I got this thing down now. Like I know what trading is all about. Easy. That's what opens the door to the more mistakes. Cause it just strikes, like, it's so crazy to me that like early in my career was one of the times I was best about loss cutting. Like I was so respectful of the market and of if something's going wrong, I'm getting out. And that slowly eroded away over time. And I think it was because I started to get that ego and the like, well, I'm Tim Grittani. Like I know this stock market stuff. And I think that I could have learned that lesson a lot sooner and saved myself some heartache.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you saying that. And let everyone know when your course is coming out and where they can find it and anything else you'd like to share. Go ahead and let them know.
Yeah, so it's going to be out next week. I don't know exactly what day this is going to air, but first week of February should be available for pre-sale. And well, I think it'll be like, a initial sale kind of thing. Like it's like you buy it, you get it. But right now it's just timgrittani.com/trading-tickers-2. Like maybe we should post that link because it's kind of a mouthful, but that's like the little sign up thing, get your name on the email list, and they'll shoot you an email with the coupon and all that stuff. So that's the best way to do it right now.
Twitter, and you probably have it on your Twitter too, right? Like if you go to your Twitter.
Oh yeah. I just posted on my Twitter last night. So yeah, you can find the link on my Twitter.
Make sure to pin that too on your Twitter, man.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That'll be great. And by the way, again, as always, my man, it's awesome to have you here. It's a pleasure. And you always share some great, insightful tips and just philosophies and advice from your experiences. And I appreciate it so much, my man.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Always fun.
Absolutely.